So we're going to look at our first homework assignment, and it's going to start with the number line puzzles. So a lot of it is just our math facts, but we're also going to be looking at the patterns as we go across A and between A and B. So we're going to start with 2 times 4, which is 8. And then we see we're skip counting by 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. And then it makes this big jump. And I notice that from this 4 to this 8, it's doubled, which means I can double 16 and get 32 if I wasn't sure what that math fact was. And then we're skip counting by 4s again. 9 times 4 is 36, and 10 times 4 is 40. So just like I noticed this big skip to double, I also noticed that this one starts with 2 times 4, and this one starts with 2 times 8. So I see that A, if I double all my answers for A, I would get B. So if I know my 4's fact, I could just double it to get my 8's fact. So if 2 times 4 is 8, then 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. So I can either know my facts, count by 8s, or double. And then again, we're going to jump and double. So 4 times 8 is 32. Then 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 8 is 72. And 10 times 8 is 80. Number 2 just wants us to fill in the math facts. You can use these to help you. 8 times 2 and then 8 times 2. So we have 16, 32, 64, 80, and it goes back to 72. And then it kind of jumps a little bit on us. 7 times 10 is 70. And then I can do one group of 7 left for 7 times 9 and get 63. And number 3, Roger's little brother Saul wants to know if 5 times 7 is the same as 7 times 5. If you were Roger, how would you explain to Saul whether this is true? Well, we could do it a couple different ways. First of all, yes, it is true, and then we'll talk about why. We can prove that we know that 5 times 7 is 35, and that 7 times 5 is 35. And since they both have the same answers, they're the same and it's true. Or we know that with the multiplication properties, that it doesn't matter what order we multiply. And since that order doesn't matter, it can go either way and be true. That same property works for addition. On to the back, number 4. This is what we've been doing in class the past couple days. Each of the 29 students in Mr. Brown's 4th grade class brought 2 notebooks to class. The first day of school, how many notebooks was that in all? Show your thinking with numbers, sketches, or words, then write your equation. So we've been working really hard on that equation with that variable. So I have 29 students, and they brought 2 notebooks. And then back here, I see the sneaky word each again. And remember that each suggests that we multiply. So my equation is going to be 29 times 2. And we're going to put that variable in. Since we're solving for notebooks, I'm going to use n. Okay? And then we've been talking about some of our strategies for multiplication. I'm going to use that break apart because I think a lot of people I've seen do that. So 29 times 2 is the same as 20 times 2 and 9 times 2. And 20 times 2 is 40, and 9 times 2 is 18, and 40 plus 18 is 58, which means 29 times 2 is 58. So the students in Mr. Brown's class brought in 58 notebooks total. please make sure you are labeling your answer. When we know what we are talking about, we should write the answer. Number 5. Each of the students in Mr. Smith's class also brought in 3 pocket folders. Mr. Smith wrote a multiplication equation to compare the number of students to the number of pocket folders they brought in. Fill in the bubble to show what this equation means. So this looks to me like each student, there are 29 students, they each brought in 3 folders, and so there must be a total of 87 folders. So even though the answer is written first, it still works because the order that we write it does not matter. So this one option says 87 is 3 more than 29. More than tells me to add, and that's not what we did. This one says 87 is 3 times as many as 29, and that's exactly what we did. We did 3 times the 29 to get to 87. And let's just double check to make sure we're good. This one says 29 is 3 times as many as 87. Well, we didn't do 3 times 87. 87 was my answer. Okay, and the challenge. I always want you to try the challenge. Okay, even if you don't get it, that's okay. It's good to push ourselves a little bit and see what we are capable of doing. So if 5 students each brought 8 boxes with 10 pencils per box, and 10 students each brought 8 boxes with 5 pencils per box, how many total pencils did each student bring in? There's a lot there. So let's look at the first part of the sentence, the first group of students. I have 5 students, each brought 8 boxes of pencils with 10 pencils per box. So I want to do, there's that word each. So 5 students brought in 8 boxes each. Okay. And 5 times 8 is 40. And in those boxes, there were 10 pencils per box. This per box also kind of means each. So now I'm going to take that and multiply it by 10 to see how many pencils that is. And that's 400 pencils. So the first part of my equation, I did 5 times 8 times 10. So the first part, and I'm going to put it in parentheses because it's what I did first, 5 times 8, and then we did times 10. Okay? Now let's look at that second group of students. 10 students each brought in 8 boxes with 5 pencils per box. So I have 10 students, and they each brought in 8 boxes. So that's 80 boxes. And their boxes had 5 pencils per box. So we're going to multiply that by 5, and we get 400 again. If you notice, we're multiplying the same numbers, 5, 8, and 10, 10, 8, and 5. And remember that order doesn't matter. So then I also did 10 times 8 times 5. Now my question says, how many total pencils? When I want the total pencils, then I have to add. So I'm going to add those 2 parts of my equation to get my pencils. And 400 plus 400 is 800. So there were 800 total pencils. And that's it for our first homework.